Alright, so I've recently been having some trouble with my drone, more specifically the VTX, or the Video Transmitter System. Now the Video Transmitter System actually burnt out and is no longer able to transmit video. So in this video, we're going to be replacing the VTX inside my drone with a new VTX and a new camera, because my old camera has taken quite a bit of a beating too. Hopefully we should be getting a drone that works a lot better. Let's get started. Whoa, that thing works surprisingly well in the dark. Come on. There we go. Hello, this is Tanner Tech. Today we're going to be showing you a camera with negative image vision. Woo!
Tanner Tech, Tanner Tech, Tanner, Tanner Tech, Tanner Tech, Tanner. Hello, this is Tanner Tech.
So first of all, let's start with the actual VTX. So this is a simple, I think it's maybe a 100 milliwatt VTX. I think it's actually maybe a 1 watt VTX. And it's got this 3-leaf cloverleaf antenna on the end. This radio transmitter does not have a heatsink at all, and it has to broadcast 1 watt. And I assume it's not very efficient, which means that a lot of that input power is lost as heat through this heatsink. And as you can tell, this isn't a very good heatsink. So when the drone is flying, there's airflow across this heatsink, which means that it'll work just fine. But when the drone is on the ground not flying, then this heatsink gets very hot. You can even see that there's all kinds of corrosion on there from its excessive heat and exposure to dirt and acid and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, this heatsink has gotten pretty hot over the times. And I think one time that particularly did this thing in was when one of my friends crash landed it in the middle of a field, and that wasn't very good at all. After he crash landed it, this thing was heating up in the middle of a field for about maybe an hour before we found it and turned it off, which ruined the LiPo battery, but I think it also put some stress on this transmitter, so a few more flights later, and it does not work any longer. This is why on big ham radio transmitters, like on this power amplifier for a ham radio, and also the ham radio itself, they have a heatsink on the transmitter because it needs to dissipate all that heat. You can't see it in the back, and I can't really get my camera there because of this dryer hose that's in the way, but there's a gigantic heatsink on the back of this little ham radio too, just because it needs to dissipate heat. And this radio is only 25 watts, and so even when it's lowered, the heatsink gets pretty warm. So you can imagine how warm the heatsink gets on this little VTX when it has almost no heatsink. Well, it's time to replace it. First of all, I'm going to take off this battery. Alright, let's crack this thing open. There we go, the drone has been cracked open. And we can take a look at its innards, which are a little bit dirty from dust. Now I need to rip out the innards of the old camera and VTX. Now I've already removed the old VTX and the wires are just dangling here, but everything needs to be kind of pulled out because it's all going underneath and just about everywhere. But these wires definitely are power wires we could use to power our VTX. So this is the new camera we're using. If we compare that to the old one, the new camera is quite a bit bigger. And the new camera has a bigger lens. I think it has a bigger sensor inside it too. Now let's unbox the new VTX. Here it is. It looks pretty nice. It's all nice and shrink wrapped. It's got its little heatsink on there too. This one is only a 600 milliwatts, so it's slightly less, but it should still do the trick. And they also gave us this little rubber ducky antenna. This one we'll probably not use because those antennas are trash. But one interesting thing that came with this camera is this thing. So basically what this is it allows us to program the camera. So we need to hook up the camera to the device, and there's this little joystick on it. This little joystick, when we hook up the camera to a television and we hook it up to power, we can actually use this joystick to configure the camera and make it work properly. So I've got this old-fashioned TV all hooked up. Now it's time to connect the camera and see what happens. Oh, we had something happen. Oh, what the heck was that frame? That's cool. That's a high quality picture too. I have a feeling that the TV's just not working as well at getting the picture, and it's a little bit wavy, just due to the fact that it's an old TV. Well, the data sheet says it can take 5 to 22 volts, so let's crank it up to 12 volts, see if it works again. Whoa, that is cool. Especially considering it is pitch black right now, and I'm only illuminated in just the small illumination of the screen. You can see me perfectly. You can also see around the room. You can see the camera lens. Let's try out the OSD. The OSD is where I press this button. Oh, cool. It works perfectly. The Sony CCD. Ooh. Day-night level. Day-night delay. Oh, this is when it changed to light mode. Day-night. Oh, so that's why it takes so long to switch to night mode. This means that flying my rig at night could be entirely feasible, which is pretty cool. Let's take a look at the instruction manual, which tells you all the different OSD settings on there you can set. This thing also has a white balance setting you can change on it. You can go set manual. Wow, manual? Oh wow, look, you can even do the red, the blue, return colors, everything. Hello, this is Tanner Tech. Today we're going to be showing you a camera with negative image vision. Ooh. We're displaying it on CRT right now. We're going to put it on an LCD though, so we'll leave it there. Alright, you guys want to see a crazy prank? We're going from English into Chinese. Now I can't read anything. Rip. Back to English, that's what I like to see. Look at this, I can even do a negative image. Whoa. That is legit. Check that out. Wow, wow, wow. Alright, now that we can verify that the camera works, let's put it in the drone. To mount the camera, I'm merely just going to set it in the drone like this. And at this level, I should be actually able to adjust my camera now, which is a lot better than I used to do. And I can still bolt down this top part, and I can still put the GoPro on at the same time. Let's see. The only downside to using this new camera is that it's heavier than this super light one. And it also won't allow these two plates to fit on the side. Now, I don't think this will be too big of a problem because I can just kind of squeeze these wires in and zip tie them together along with this buzzer. But the only thing I'm worried about is just the props and dirt getting in there. Alright, let's get this camera in. Alright, now I'm going to solder in the VTX. And so the VTX has power input right here. 7 to 24 volts, but the camera is also 5 to 22 volts. So the camera should work off the battery power supply. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this connected to the camera. I'm going to have this connected in parallel with the camera's power supply. I'm going to cut off the V out because we don't need that. We don't need any more heat being built up in here by voltage regulators and stuff. I'm going to get rid of some of these little connector pins so I can just heat shrink the wires together. By the time this VTX drops, the thing will be done. Alright, so now it's time to fire this thing up. In order to fire it up, we need to put an antenna. Now I accidentally ran this without an antenna, and that's probably not good for it. But anyway, let's put on an antenna. Actually, it for sure isn't good for it when you run it without an antenna. Got really hot. Hopefully I didn't ruin my new transmitter. Anyway, there you go. I just installed the antenna. Let's see if it works. We're powering up the helicopter. So the transmitter is powered now. Now all I have to do is hook it up. Okay, I may need to change the channel on here. A1. Alright, so I got the camera working. Let me just see if I can fine tune this. Right now it's on R2. You can actually change the channel on here. Alright, I think that's a very fine quality picture for this new camera. I've got my setup all hooked up in place. So I have all the things connected. I have the video connector from the VTX going to the camera. I've got the power from the VTX going to the power from the old VTX. Then I've got my power from the camera going to the VBAT slot. Now that everything's verified to be working pretty good, let's put this thing back away. Alright, the new FPV transmitter is secured inside the drone. So now it's time to give it a quick test flight. Hopefully this new FPV transmitter will function as it should and give us a pretty cool flight experience. I'm going to be flying it off the patio of my grandparents' house here in Utah. As you can see, the scenery is pretty pretty, and because I'm sitting on this gigantic balcony, I have a perfect spot for takeoff and landing. I also have a pretty cool view of these amazing mountains, and I can fly my drone. It's high time to go. Just gonna leave my camera running while I take off. Really hoping this is a good flight. It's been a while since I've really flown. We got power, and we got good FPV. It's a little bit like dusk here. Hopefully this shouldn't be a problem. Now, as always, thank you for watching, and please subscribe.